Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of September 9th. I'm Michael James, and it gives me a lot of pleasure to bring on someone who's been working hard to right things on a front that has often been wronged, and that would be the marijuana industry. Our next guest here is Margo Vesely. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yes, you did.
Apparently. Margo Vesely, and she is the executive director of the Illinois National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Hello to you, Margo.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And thanks for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule. I have a number of questions as someone who's kind of followed this for most of my lifetime. Why don't we start out by you sharing with us a little bit about what the history of NORML, that's the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Law, here in Illinois.
Yes. So this national organization started out in the 70s from our very own Illinois constituent, Keith Stroop, who was an attorney and is an attorney actually, currently serving for the national board federally. So this organization has practically a chapter in almost every state now. There are a number of states that have flipped either recreationally, medically, or both. And we are helping to serve the other states that are currently still waiting to flip theirs.
What's the breakdown on how many states have legalized marijuana for medical purposes and those that have legalized it for recreational, and who are the holdout states like Oklahoma where they grow a lot of weed?
I'm not really keeping up with current figures, but I do know that over half the states are currently flipped in either or side of that. And there's still some of those states that are very conservative and holding on to dear life, but we will get there. Now, what was that about Oklahoma?
Oh, I just know that they're growing a lot of marijuana and shipping it out, and there's a black market. But there's been a number of news articles, but I think they just vetoed or didn't vote through legalization or even medical. I'm not sure of the actual detail.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty conservative state. It used to be a socialist state back in the old days, but that's a long time ago. Let me ask you, Margo, what was NORML's role in the state of Illinois in the legalization project? Way back, we had on the show, I think, Dan Lynn, who was involved with the organization. He was at the Heartland Cafe when we did the show back in the day from the stage during breakfast. What was NORML's role in bringing about the legalization of marijuana in Illinois?
Yeah, Dan Lynn is my predecessor. He was the executive director for Illinois NORML for over 13 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they played a pivotal role in getting us to where we are right now. And that is that we have the freedom to be able to choose either recreationally or medically to be able to go and get our cannabis products.
What's the status of what's going on with marijuana in Illinois since legalization?
That's a great question. Now, I actually was voted in the beginning of 2020, so right at that cusp when we became recreational. And a lot of people have come up to me and asked, what are you guys even doing around? You already did your job. And essentially, we have done that job, but there's still a lot of policies that need to be amended in order to really serve the general population the way that it should be. We still have currently high tax rates, and it's making us lose a lot of our market to the other states that are opening up surrounding around us that have lower costs and lower tax rates. And even to be able to cultivate on your own, there's other states that in the surrounding areas that have a lot easier abilities to be able to do that. In Illinois, we are only allowed to have 5 states under one roof, no matter how many patients there are under that roof. And I've had a number of constituents reach out to me sharing that, I have 3 children that have autism and they depend on this as a medicine, and we grow for ourselves. However, if that grow has some kind of infestation or something happens where it just doesn't work out for them, they've just lost a lot of time and effort and money. And then they have to go to a local dispensary and have to spend a lot more money if they have that and access to them. Because we do have, groups, large groups of dispensaries in the public, more populated areas, and the rural areas don't have access to all those dispensaries. So this was actually someone that was in a rural area and didn't have access to a local dispensary.
I also noticed on your website that there are, you're allowed to possess a certain amount of marijuana, but if you go over a certain number of ounces, there are penalties. Can you fill us in a little bit on that?
That is still, an enforced, unfortunately, law that we are working with legislators to be able to change as well. There has been some movement on the fact that if there is an odor coming out, that is not probable cause for someone to be able to get searched or to have any other further implications happen from that. But yes, this is a current law that there are certain limitations in the amount that you can have on you.
Well, you mentioned working with legislators, and I was wondering, my state rep is Kelly Cassidy, who played a strong role in this. But I imagine there are still legislators, maybe Republican, maybe some Democrats who have resisted the legalization process. And I wonder if you can give us any indication about where our state reps and our senators, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys?
Well, we do have a list that we update on every political run that we have. With every representative, we reach out to them and ask them on their opinions. So you can definitely find that out in our website. I'm not going to call anyone out. But other than that, every time I approach any legislator, they're very open to having these discussions. The issue is that they're not educated in it. They don't know how to advise anyone because they don't even know themselves. So that is something that we are working on as Illinois NORML and working with other organizations to provide that education to them so that they don't just grab information from other industries thinking that it could be applied to our industry the same. It doesn't work that way.
I'm wondering a little bit about the equity in dispensaries. It's an issue here in Chicago. The way the law was passed, people thought that people who had, experienced the hardships of being marijuana users had certain openings to get involved in the industry. And but there is a move, a lot of wealthier, predominantly white groups have got a lot of the dispensaries and the market. And I'm just wondering where are we at on fairness and letting non-whites get a little bit of chunk of the action?
Yeah, I mean, to any common sense person, you can look back at the history that we have. It's a short history so far. And you can see the individuals that were able to jump on these opportunities to get into the market already had the funds set aside, already had the connections there to implement for their infrastructures. So their logistics and everything is already set in place. Unfortunately, it's left a lot of other individuals out of the accessibility for these opportunities. And that's what that fight for social justice licensing is all about. And it's been just going round and round in circles and really sad, honestly. It makes me
What
really
needs to be
upset.
done? What would constituents of some of these people, what kind of push do we have to give to get a better deal on this?
So that's a good question to ask because we've been trying to figure that out too. And the way that we see it is that we're going to put the approach that we're going to provide other pressure points within our industry to have these legislators move and take action. What we're doing is educating the legislators first and foremost, and then also getting more constituents activated. And who are the most activated constituents out there? Seniors, So we're providing education to seniors to go out there because they are the more likely to call upon their representatives to take that action. So basically, the idea is to get out there, speak your voice, share your opinions to your representatives because they do have to take that tally down when you reach out to them either by phone or email. And then they have to act upon whatever the majority of their population cares about.
I saw something in my research that I think it was 1 in 5 seniors have used marijuana in the last year. Did I get that off your website or did I get it somewhere else?
I did not put that on the website, but if you do come across that again, please do share that with me because I am here to provide some additional data like that to some legislators that are interested in knowing about this with what I was sharing. You know, we're educating the seniors, so I'm trying to activate that. They want to have this data to provide so that they can actually see that this is a viable initiative that we want to take on.
Margo Vesely, let me ask you about the ongoing reports that the Drug Enforcement Agency is considering the reclassification of marijuana. Now, I imagine that this is something that NORML around the country is paying close attention to. And I'm just wondering if you could give us an update on the process or where that stands.
Yeah, just I believe either earlier today or yesterday, National NORML sent out a publication through their newsletter stating that rescheduling is not what we want. We want descheduling. Rescheduling is not going to do us any good. It's only going to provide more money to the profit makers out there and add even more money to those that have been in medical facilities. We want descheduling to be that cannabis can be accepted just like tobacco and alcohol to be sold.
What are some of the issues that you guys are dealing with that people who maybe use marijuana or just in general issues that are coming up around marijuana?
The most common issues that we often get is with the utilization of their consumption in their homes. If it's an apartment building, there's neighbors that complain about the odor, and that starts an issue for people. So they come and reach out to us to seek some advocacy or some legal representation for that. Other parts are people that are employed at jobs or seeking employment, and they can't find jobs because they are a patient, a card holder, and they are in fear that they may get drug tested. States like California now just implemented recently that they're no longer drug testing for marijuana for new employees or even current employees. So that is something that we've been looking into and seeing how we can adopt that as well.
What's the story with drug testing here in Illinois? Is there any movement on either stopping it or altering it? Is it still used to keep people out of work or keep them from getting a job?
You know, I haven't really heard much. I do know that the trucking industry, there's a few organizations there that have already self-declared that they will no longer be testing for cannabis use. But other than that, what was phenomenal to me to see was the fact that union representation was happening here in the state, in the state of Illinois. And ironically, the union employees are not able to consume themselves. So it's just really just the juxtaposition there. You know, how are they representing these individuals that are working in these spaces?
Are you talking about working in marijuana dispensaries? Or
yeah, cultivations, the corporate companies.
Yeah.
There's been union representation now because they've been unfortunately not being taken care of as an employee. So they had to step in, but it's just ironic that these union representatives aren't able to consume themselves. So it's just an interesting situation there.
One of the things that I noticed on your website was an analysis. Let's dispel the myth that cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke are equally hazardous to health. What can you share with us? Because that comes up, and then people have even said that to me in my lifetime, that it's just like smoking cigarettes.
Well, we can't really declaratively say either or because we don't have the research here in the United States. However, there are researchers in our leading nations of Spain and Israel where they are conducting this research. It's just America doesn't accept it. We have to do our own research. There's studies that show that there isn't any implications that come from the cannabis use smoke, but I can't declaratively say that.
On another front, many hemp-derived Delta-9 THC products sold over the counter contain synthetically derived THC. So I don't know much about this synthetically derived THC. Fill us in. As much detail as you want.
So it's going to be a confusing world that we're entering into the science behind this plant because there are over 100 cannabinoids that exist in this plant naturally that each have a benefit to us that can target specific conditions or diseases. However, those derivatives that you just mentioned, those are novel cannabinoids. They're synthetic. They have to have some kind of manipulation by a human being, by some other compound that will bring about another type of cannabinoid, but it's not a natural one. The concern is that these facilities that are producing these synthetic cannabinoids, are they actually using compliant methods to do so? Because hemp is not being regulated at all. It's legal, but it's not being regulated. No one is going into these stores and checking in to see if that they're being tested properly, that they don't have heavy metals, that they don't have molds, that, you know, they don't have traces of residual solvents possibly within it. And if you're an autoimmune deficient individual, especially, that could cause a detrimental effect to your health. And if you're not even someone with an autoimmune disease, it could still build up in your system and cause some kind of issue down the line. So those are my concerns about it. Not saying that these derivative synthetic cannabinoids are not safe. I'm not saying that. Just as long as the measures that they're taking by providing these products are actually clean methods, then I will, support them.
What is the growing of marijuana? Is it being grown in Illinois? I mean, if we have a dispensary in Evanston or in Chicago somewhere, is the source of the marijuana being sold there all from Illinois, or is it from around the country? And is there enough marijuana being grown, say, in Illinois to meet the demands?
That is something that the previous board actually provided. It was an Illinois demand study that they showed that the previous amount of dispensaries and cultivation centers was not able to keep up with the demand that we had in Illinois. Now, with the new release of these new licenses, it's definitely going to help supplement that. However, the rollout is very slow to go. So the demand was not met. However, now there's new markets opening up in states near us that has shifted that demand too. So can't really speak to that either.
You've mentioned the other states a few times, but I thought that which state are we talking about? I mean, Indiana, it's not legal.
Missouri.
Kentucky, it's not. It is legal in Missouri now?
Yeah.
Hopefully maybe they'll turn a little bit more blue from the red that they got over there, smoking the green. But let me see if I can get you to talk a little bit about the history of the criminalization of marijuana. There was a time when it was legal in the United States. As my understanding, there was a lot of it originally started to shift when you had, certain Mexicans and, in LA, an area were smoking marijuana, it was pretty much viewed as something that non-whites did. And then, we ended up with this, what was his name, Anslinger or something? He was head of drug stuff. And we just had these draconian laws with people going to jail for years and years. I think about my friend John Sinclair from the old White Panther Party. He went to jail for a number of years for 2 joints. What do you got to say about all that?
That breaks my heart. Anslinger is rotting just the same way as Hitler is in my book, and I think in a lot of people's books.
That's good. I'm going to put that in the promo for this segment.
Oh, thanks. There's a lot of interesting perspectives on this. So we actually have in Illinois a gentleman, his name is Craig Cecil. He was imprisoned for life for having a business, a trucking business that, they just fix trucks. And one of the businesses that came through his business was someone that was transporting marijuana across states. He got pinned with it. He did not want to disclose the information for, reasons. And luckily, he was so proficient by continuing his push on the wardens inside of these prisons, keep questioning about what his possibilities and opportunities were. He would organize other prison cellmates inside the prison. And we think the warden got sick of him for doing it. So eventually he got an exit date. And by chance, he saw this exit date, got one of the attorneys that was doing some work for another organization, and was able to get out on clemency on Trump's last days, which was very lucky. Now he started a new organization called Second Chance Foundation to help other prisoners get out as well, because there's other organizations that are saying that they're doing it. However, they're focusing more on policy rather than actually getting the prisoners out. Now, Craig reached out to National NORML when he was still in prison, seeking out some help and resources. And National NORML said, sorry, you broke the law. We can't help you. I don't see that same viewpoint. If the law wasn't there to be broken, he wouldn't have been behind the bars, right? And same with everyone that's currently behind bars. So essentially, it's a part of this whole industry. Like whoever is a part involved in this, they have some kind of implication to help those that are behind prison cells still trying to fight to get themselves out. So I always try to bring attention to that organization to help them get more awareness and help to be able to do that work. But other than that, the federal changes that are being talked about, it's just so slow to roll. I remember last year I was interviewed about the president sharing that he was going to start doing something about it, getting not clemency, but just the release for everyone that had any kind of charge. And that was very slow to roll. And now we have a year later where they're starting to talk about it. It just seems like it's going to be on the platform for the next presidential election race so that we can favor one person or the other, unfortunately.
Margo Vesely, I'm going to ask you one more question, and that would be, do you have any sense of the ramifications for the legalization of marijuana, particularly in Illinois, for those people, and I would say the heroic people, who for the last 30, 40, 50 years have defied the law in order to bring marijuana to people throughout the state and beyond? It's a big industry, an underground industry, and it probably still exists, but I'm curious to know if you have any sense of what effect it's had on people who were vested in the old underground marijuana industry.
Well, it's just really unfortunate that they don't have access to actually become legal business operators. That's all they want, really. And to those that are naysaying the fact that these people are breaking the law or, whatever it is that their perspective is on it, if we hadn't had these people fighting the good fight for us to be able to have access for all those years, would we even be here currently, right now, in this state where the industry is now opening up? I don't think so. So they are our saviors. They are our champions, just like you were just saying, Michael. I look up to them and thank them for their hard work and efforts, and unfortunately having to give a stake in their lives just to be able to make this happen for us.
Well, this has been great. Thanks for filling me in on a lot of information. Is there anything that I didn't ask you want to share?
I think that we covered it all, and I appreciate having this conversation with you. Thank you so much.